All right, what's going on, you guys? Nick here with Next on the Power. So I want to talk about a couple interesting stories today. So the first story I want to talk about is the Rafael Brandao Classic, which just happened this past week and was won, the overall bodybuilding division was won by a bodybuilder named Marcelo De Angelis, who also goes by Horse MD on Instagram. So I think Marcelo is a guy that has a very bright future in professional bodybuilding. And looking at these photos, I mean, you would almost think he's a classic physique guy, not from a size standpoint, but, you know, from the small waist, the aesthetics that he has, the ability to kind of suck in the abs and do this vacuum pose in the front double bicep. The guy just has a crazy taper and a really crazy physique for a men's open bodybuilder. And I think he looked really, really impressive at this Rafael Brandao Classic. Obviously, that's why he won the overall there. But I really do think this guy is a very underrated bodybuilder. He's got a very complete physique. He's got crazy legs. Again, he's got that crazy taper. I think this is a guy that we're going to see a lot of great things from in the future, and this is a name that people need to remember going forward. I think this guy is going to do some damage, some serious damage in men's open bodybuilding in the future. I think he's probably way too big to ever do classic physique, and there's probably no chance we'd ever see him be able to suck down to that weight division. But he does, for a men's open guy, he has a very classic and very aesthetic physique to him, along with that crazy amount of size required to be a men's open bodybuilder. So I wanted to give him a quick shout out in the beginning of this video and cover that Rafael Brandao Classic. Now, the next topic I want to talk about here is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. He recently posted a picture yesterday of a back double bicep shot. And this is really the first kind of physique update he's given in a while. And this particular post got a lot of attention from the bodybuilding community. I saw a lot of bodybuilders commenting this post, and it ended up getting over 4,500,000 likes. And in the caption, he says he's weighing 257 pounds in this photo. And really, I don't even think I've ever seen a back double bicep shot of The Rock. And I got to say, he does look very impressive here. I mean, you got to keep in mind, this guy is 46 years old. He's been doing this for years. And I thought it was kind of cool that he posted this photo shortly after I posted my top 20 physiques in the WWE video. If you haven't seen that video, go check it out. It's the last video I posted. So, of course, a lot of people were tagging me in the comments of this to make a video about it. Could The Rock have been a bodybuilder video, since I used to do that video series going through professional wrestlers and other athletes and evaluating their physiques and whether or not they could have been successful as a professional bodybuilder. And I've already done one on The Rock. And I do think The Rock could have been a successful bodybuilder. I think it's very evident that The Rock is a guy that takes this training very seriously. He takes his physique very seriously. And he does actually train a bodybuilding style of training split. So he is kind of training to achieve the look of the muscle rather than overall strength, because he is a movie star. He's an action star. He wants to look big. He wants to look muscular. He wants to look like a bodybuilder. But he's probably not training to the extent that a bodybuilder would, because he doesn't want to be too big. And yes, I think Hollywood does have standards for, you know, these muscular guys that play these action roles. They want them to be big and they want them to be muscular, but they don't want them to be too big where it would be completely unrelatable to the mainstream. So I think The Rock does a good job of finding that balance of being obviously crazy big and staying ripped at the same time for these movie roles. So yeah, I do think this is a pretty impressive shot of The Rock, pretty impressive back double bicep, especially considering his age, considering the fact he's not a bodybuilder, and considering the fact that he just got off this kind of cheat meal binge that he's been having the past couple of weeks and weighing 257 pounds. So shout out to The Rock. I think he looks impressive as hell here. So the next topic I wanted to discuss in this video is, will Phil Heath ever compete at the Olympia again? Now, a couple reasons for this topic coming up. A lot of people are sending me screenshots of people asking Phil on his Instagram if he's going to compete in 2019, if he's going to compete ever again. And his responses kind of suggested that he's maybe thinking about not competing again. And I think it's pretty safe to say that most of us are pretty sure he's not going to be competing in 2019. But the question then is, if he skips 2019, will he come back in 2020 to try to regain that title? Now, in addition to the comments that I've been seeing, Muscular Development actually recently did a video with Zach King Khan where they interviewed him. And Zach Khan says he thinks Phil Heath will never compete again. So that video raised a lot of eyebrows as well and had a lot of people questioning whether or not Phil will come back. And then in this particular comment where this guy asked him if he's competing in 2019, Phil responds and says, "The judges did what they felt was right. Not sure if they want to see me up there, but we shall see." So personally, I do want to see Phil Heath come back and compete, whether it's 2019 or 2020 or some point in the future. I know Phil and I have had our problems in the past, but as a bodybuilding fan, of course I want to see Phil come back. Of course, I want to see Phil come back and try to regain that title. And if he did regain that title, I would be happy for him if he deserved it. If he came back, he looked fantastic, he slammed the door shut and got that title back, that'd be awesome. I mean, as a bodybuilding fan, that would be an incredible thing to see. Regardless of all the hate that Phil gets, if Phil were able to come back and beat whoever the reigning Mr. Olympia is in that year, whatever year he decides to come back, it would be awesome. I mean, we can't lie about that. It'd be pretty cool to see that. Now, I think what everybody would like to see, regardless of whether or not they like or dislike Phil, everyone wants to see Phil come back with the midsection fixed. I don't think anyone can deny that either. And I think at the 2018 Mr. Olympia, it was pretty evident that the midsection was not fixed. Now, Phil claims this was a result of torn incisions from the hernia surgery. Now, we do know that right now Phil is recovering from the surgery that he had to fix those torn incisions. So, of course, we do have the possibility that this does fix the problem. Phil Heath is able to get this under control. And supposedly, now that this is fixed, the midsection theoretically wouldn't be an issue. Now, obviously, Phil is still recovering from this. He had a similar surgery last year before the Mr. Olympia, and he claims he didn't have enough time to recover. So we want to see Phil Heath be able to recover from the surgery enough and recover his physique to a point where it's not going to be a mistake for him to come back, as in, he came back too early. So personally, I don't think the 2019 Mr. Olympia is the right move for Phil. I think he should wait till 2020. And I think Phil thinks that as well. I don't think we're going to see Phil at the 2019 Mr. Olympia. I think that's a pretty safe bet. But do I think his absence in 2019 means his absence from all future Mr. Olympia competitions? I don't think that's the case. I don't think if he skips 2019 that means that Phil is done. And that's what a lot of people are saying. They're saying if he skips 2019, that's the end of Phil Heath. He's not going to come back. And I really don't think that's the case. So, of course, the midsection has been the primary issue and the primary criticism of Phil, and that would probably be the primary reason why he sits out in 2019. Now, the speculation that Phil Heath might not ever come back, I think this is more deeply rooted in how he feels about the judging decision and how he feels about the promotion of the 2018 Mr. Olympia. And I think he actually made some very valid points. I watched all the interviews that he did, post-Olympia, talking about the results, talking about the decision, talking about how he felt about all these things. And he did make one very valid point that I thought stood out to me a lot. And he said in one of these interviews, if I do come back, how is the Olympia going to use that? How are they going to promote that? How are they going to use that as promotional material for that Olympia that I'm choosing to come back to? Are they going to promote my comeback, or are they going to promote something else? And the reason he said that is because this year at the 2018 Olympia, he was going for the 8th Mr. Olympia win. He was going to tie the title. And a very valid point that Phil did make was that going into this year's Mr. Olympia, they weren't really promoting the Mr. Olympia. They weren't really promoting the fact that he was going for the record. If you look at a lot of the photos from Vegas, a lot of the promotional materials and posters, you see a lot of photos of Big Ramy. You see a lot of kind of promoting the up-and-comers against Phil. It kind of looked like the odds were stacked against him. You see a lot of promotion for the fan vote or the People's Choice Award that Rolly Winkler won. But you didn't see any promotion for the fact that Phil Heath was going for the record tie. So it seemed like they weren't really, in favor of Phil. It seemed like the people behind the scenes weren't really promoting the fact that Phil was going for that record. And that's a very valid complaint for Phil to have. I mean, this was a big deal. Had he won that 8th Olympia, which obviously he didn't, but had he won it, that would have been a major milestone in bodybuilding history. Whether fans were happy or unhappy with it, it would have been a massive deal. And I think the promotion for the Olympia should have been centered around that. But it was really more centered around Big Ramy and the up-and-comers. And could the champion be dethroned? And that's very valid because they did have the fan vote and a lot of promotion for that fan vote, which in theory would have been stacking the odds against Phil. The fan vote was really completely against Phil. So Phil does have a valid concern. Maybe the powers that be don't really like him. Maybe they don't really want to see him come back. Maybe they want a new champion. Maybe they want bodybuilding to go in a new direction. Maybe they want a new face of the Mr. Olympia. Whatever the case may be, and whatever concern he might have, it does seem that he has reason for that concern because that does seem to be the case. Now, I also saw in those interviews that Phil seems to disagree with the actual judging of the Mr. Olympia, and I don't really agree with that part. I think the judging was fair. I think the result, the outcome, was the outcome that was supposed to happen. I think Sean Roden deserved to win that Olympia, and it wasn't really a case of biased judges not giving it to Phil. But do I think Phil could come back, if he did come back, in 2020, 2021, whenever he decides to come back? Do I think he could take the title back? Absolutely. If he comes back with the midsection fixed, and we see a version of Phil that's similar to 2011, who in this lineup is going to beat Phil with a tight midsection? Because we got to be honest here, the rest of Phil's body, aside from the midsection, is probably one of the most complete physiques to ever hit the Olympia stage. The back, the hamstrings, the legs, the arms, the shoulders, the chest, everything is there. And really, it's hard for anyone else to even compare to Phil. But the other question is, can he fix the midsection? Not could he win if he does, but can he fix it in the first place? And that is the main question that we should be focused on, because that's what I really want to see in the comeback. Because we'll never really know if he doesn't make a comeback. We'll never know if the midsection was something that could be fixed. And that's why I think that Phil should come back. If he really firmly believes that the issue was these torn incisions or whatever, and he wants to prove everybody wrong, that he could fix this midsection, come back, take his title back, I think he has to come back. And I want to see him come back. If Phil comes back, I'm not rooting against him. I'm not hoping he comes back with a gut. The bodybuilding commentary channels don't pick on the fact that he had a gut because we want him to do bad, because we want him to have a gut. We talk about the gut because we want him to get rid of it. We want to see bodybuilders without the gut. So I would love Phil to come back and prove everybody wrong, including myself, without the gut, win the Olympia. Hands down, we got to give him props. So I want to know what you guys think in the comment section below about a potential Phil Heath comeback. Can he, should he, would he, why or why not? And I'll be honest with you guys, I haven't had a single conversation or interaction with Phil since back in October when all that lawsuit stuff went down. But all that stuff aside, I really do wish the best for Phil. I hope he's able to recover fully from this surgery. And I hope whatever he ends up doing in bodybuilding or in business, he has success with. So thank you guys for watching the video. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. Nick Strength and Power, signing out.